All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, June 10th. We got a full MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest, if you do want to fade me, all of that free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of yesterday, let's pump in some crowd noise. Let's drop a cha-ching. The soundboard's getting a lot of action in today's show. We go 9-1. We don't have to go over all of them, but what I will say, and I don't even know why we focus on the negative sometimes as humans, but that one loss irks me to death. We had the Blue Jays and the Cardinals under 8.5. Now, mind you, this is the game that prevented a 10-0 sweep last night, which we've clearly never done in our life before, right? So that would have been pretty damn cool. The Blue Jays Cardinals under 8.5. It was the 8th inning, 3-0 Blue Jays. We also had the Blue Jays money line, so looking like we were going to cash both those. 3-run home run in the bottom of the 8th. They go to extras. 5-4 game, I think it was the final score, which means it killed our under. But nonetheless, I can't get I can't harp on that too much. A 9-1 night? Are you kidding me? Let's go ahead and pull some of the momentum into today. I don't know if we can go 9-1 again, but we can definitely try. Unfortunately, the ride of the day does not come through here from Ralph. You got to drop the womp womp. Ralph definitely isn't deserving of the womp womp. Had a bunch of nerfies in a row. I think he hit 2 nerfies in a row here. Yeah, you could see on the tracker. So he did hit 2 in a row. Just that third one doesn't come through. 1-0 Cubs at the end of 1. That was a really good game. And honestly, not even the worst call. Yes, they got to Wheeler in the first inning, but that was a fairly grinded out type of a first 5 there. We had the Phillies in the first 5, so we watched that one closely. So unfortunately, Ralph, ride of the day streak comes to an end, but still a very good effort, making 0.62 units over your 3 days that you were going with it. Now, if you guys are like, what the heck is the ride of the day? Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD down in the comments. I jump aboard with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to look for your plays and ride with your plays until the wheels fall off, right? If you do lose, you get the shout out, but we got to talk about it, and you got to face the womp womp on the soundboard. But all right, guys, what do you say we dive into today's slate? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, absolutely smash that like button if you tailed anything from yesterday. I'm sure there's some people out there that were like, the only one I picked, of course, was the Blue Jays and Cardinals under. I feel your pain there, but let's go ahead and dive into game number 1 here. Baltimore taking on Detroit. We have Sawyer Gipson long on the mound for Detroit, going up against Cade Povich. Cade Povich hasn't looked all that terrible. I really believe that. I will say Detroit's offense also hasn't looked all that great, so maybe Povich is in a decent spot here. He's struggled against lefty bats, though, and there's a couple of those lefty bats that I'm a little bit worried about in this Detroit lineup. Ultimately, I think for the price, they're telling you a lot, right? The fact that you can get the Orioles for minus money at home, they're playing a little bit better baseball. They have what I would consider somewhat of a starting pitcher advantage, so I'll lean Baltimore in this spot, but I'm also not necessarily against an over. There's a lot of weather factors here where it looks like we have a really, like 80 degrees there in Baltimore, no rain, that type of thing. So, yeah, I think an over could be here too, just given the fact that, Baltimore's offense kind of looks okay lately. I mean, yesterday they scored, 2 days ago they scored 1 run against the Athletics. But prior to that, 7, 4, 4, 3, 5. I know those aren't the craziest numbers, but they're a lot better than Baltimore was doing. So, give me Baltimore in the over in this one. Next up, we have Cleveland taking on Cincinnati. We have Andrew Abbott, who, less the last start, had been pitching really, really well. Going up against Slade Ciccone, who hasn't necessarily been pitching all that well. He does have a couple good starts in there. He pitched okay against the Yankees, right? I think it was 5 innings pitched, just one 1 or 2 earned, something like that. I would give the advantage to Abbott here, and the fact that you're getting them at plus money is probably where I would go. They end up winning 7-1 yesterday in this matchup. Wade Miley pitched 5 innings after not pitching for God knows how long, right, against this Cleveland squad. Andrew Abbott as a lefty, there's a clear lefty issue right now in terms of Cleveland trying to bat them. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on here. This Cincinnati team also should bat Andrew Abbott's pitch mix fairly well. Fastball, slider, the curve will be mixed in there. So did I say Andrew Abbott? Ciccione's pitch mix. So I do think that this is a Cincinnati squad that can put up a decent number today. If you worry about Andrew Abbott potentially regressing like he showed in his last start, then this might just be a pivot to a Cincinnati team total over. I don't necessarily love the idea of the bullpen right now in Cleveland, or Ciccione on the mound. So give me Cincinnati as well as a team total over for them. Their offense is inconsistent, but right now I think they are in one of those little runs that they go on, meaning they scored 13, 4, 7. I think they could put up, 4 or 5 today, which should be good enough for a team total over. I don't think we have any major weather concerns either. So yeah, maybe we go Cincinnati and their team total over is probably what we'd look at. One player prop that I'm considering here would be Lane Thomas under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Batting just 111 against lefties so far this season. Obviously not the most sample size. The fastball, changeup, slider. The slider is the only pitch that he hits really well, and you're going to have to dig into the third pitch that Abbott throws. So against that fastball and changeup, I think Lane Thomas should be okay. My issue, and I don't know if it's that big of a deal, is that 7 plate appearances against Andrew Abbott. So small sample size. He is batting 400 against him. But again, for what we're getting, I think this could be a decent spot for the fact that he's coming back as well, Guys, I wanted to let you know that we do have some new products over in the store. I'm rocking the They Don't Boo Nobody's tee with a nice little back design. You can't really see it here. I got the Gambler Fall 2024 rope hat on as well, but tons of new products over on FadeMe.store. Go ahead and check it out. We've moved some of the older products that are some of our best sellers into the sales section as well. So now they're being sold at a discount. So go ahead and check it out. FadeMe.store or go to GuyBostonSports.com/store. They'll both take you to the same place. Again, FadeMe.store or GuyBostonSports.com/store. Pick up some great merch. It's legit quality stuff that we put a lot of time and effort into. So go ahead and check it out for yourself. Pittsburgh taking on Miami. I think you have to look at Pittsburgh here. You have Mitch Keller going up against Sandy Alcantara. I always want to say Alcantara. And it's sad because Sandy Alcantara is, or was, so good. He just has not been this year. So the fact that he's almost turned into, and I hate to say it, somewhat of an auto fade, like that just blows, right? Because he was so dominant. But Pittsburgh's playing really good baseball right now. They've won 4 straight. They swept the Phillies. They won yesterday against his Miami ball club 10-3. So yeah, I guess that, that's a good look for them because obviously they haven't been scoring. So if they can get to Alcantara, I don't necessarily sit here and say that this is going to be an easy, get in terms of Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller has been pitching well. I think he's coming off of a bad start, so maybe some bounce back opportunity. He's going to throw a lot of sliders and fastballs. Those aren't necessarily the best pitches that this Miami team likes to see, and Miami is away from home, right? So I guess I'll lean towards Pittsburgh, but again, it's tough because that is a pretty juiced price tag for a Pittsburgh team that even though they have been scoring, we still can't necessarily sit here and say that they will score. Because even when I say they have been, I'm talking like, well, they scored 10 yesterday, but I'm talking like Pittsburgh getting to 3 runs, 4 runs. We've just seen that more often lately. They're still a team that will drop, I think the game before that 10-run game, they scored 2. You know what I mean? So they're still a team that will drop a game where they only score 1 or 2 runs. So even though they're scoring more, the benchmark isn't all that high. In terms of what we have from a total, I don't mind the idea of an under because, like I said, I think that this Mitch Keller position could be pretty good for, him. And then what if we look at Alcantara? What if he comes out there and does pitch well against a Pittsburgh team that wants to get back to what they were just doing, which is scoring pretty much 0 runs? That's a little bit high of a total there at 8.5, right? So give me Pitt and the under. All right, moving on, Philadelphia taking on Chicago. I think a play that I like here, and we'll see if we end up rolling with it. I kind of want to dig into it a little bit more, but would be race to 3 runs, Philadelphia. I think that's available on most books in the innings prop or in the game props section. Again, race to 3 runs. So I'm not saying that Phillies win the game or anything like that, but I do think runs are scored here. I want to trust the Phillies offense. Really nice weather there in Philly. They do have Mick Abel on the mound, but he's going up against Colin Reyes. So say what you want about Mick Abel. Maybe not exactly the most proven kid, right? But Colin Reyes hasn't necessarily been out there shoving. 2 straight starts of 5 innings pitched and like 6 earned, whereas Mick Abel has looked pretty damn damn good. Now, again, only 2 starts. At some point, this kid gets hit up probably. This is a very good Cubs lineup, so I get it, but I just think that the Phillies jump on it early. Now, I wanted to get to the Phillies team total. Had we been able to get to a 3.5 for them, I would be all over that, and I'd be saying, the hell with this, race to 3, you know what I mean? But I do think that being able to get to Rhea kind of quickly, and if Abel keeps pitching like he's pitching, this could be a good little look. We're getting plus money for it. So again, that play is essentially backing the Phillies and them scoring runs, but I want them to do it early, so it's going to be race to 3 runs. You pick the Phillies. And that's pretty much just whoever, scores 3 runs first. In terms of a actual side, it would still be Phillies for me. In terms of a total, like I said, maybe a look at an over, because there is a chance here that Abel does regress. And this is not a bad Cubs offense by any means. They've had some ups and downs, but this is still a very good offense, Mets taking on Washington. Mackenzie Gore on the mound going up against Griffin Canning. I will say this is just based on the price, okay? I do like the idea of Washington and potentially rolling with them. Mackenzie Gore is obviously a very, very good pitcher. He's one of the better lefties in the game. He has some fair numbers against this Mets team as well. Griffin Canning doesn't exactly have the best numbers against the current roster of the Nationals, so things do look like you could take a peek at Gore, right? He's had his struggles on the road, I will say that. He's very good against lefty bats, though, which, Soto, Nimmo, I guess those are the names you're looking at, but there's more righties in this Mets lineup, ultimately. But what's interesting is that this Mets team, as good of an offense as they are, they're actually just middle of the pack in terms of fastball batting, in terms of runs above average over the last 30 days. Kind of like to see that. And you're going to get a ton of sliders out of Griffin Canning. Washington, who's been a streaky offense, 3rd in terms of runs above average against the slider. So, yeah, I kind of like the idea of, maybe Washington puts a couple in there. But I will say, late innings, Mets definitely have the advantage with their bullpen. Even though I kind of talked about the offense of Washington, I do still like the idea of Mackenzie Gore pitching a really good first 5, and Griffin Canning maybe pitching a decent one, because Washington isn't the best of offenses. So I'm going to lean under. My concern here is just the fact that it's such a low number, and I didn't expect it to be, but looks like we do have a decent chance of precipitation. The weather, I think, in terms of temperature is going to be nice, but if it's rainy, then yeah, that's probably what's knocked this down to 7.5. So at whatever price, we don't even have it up right now, whatever price that is for the under 4.5 in the first 5's probably long gone, but I'd still say Washington and the under in this spot. I think that Washington might get a couple timely runs that can kind of sway this thing in their direction. Red Sox taking on Tampa Bay. This was one of the plays that we almost did get to and just couldn't. I liked the over yesterday, and it ended up smacking pretty damn well, right? They hit the over 4 different times, meaning they hit it and then kept scoring. I will say that, I also kind of called the game well. I said there's reasons to like both sides, and offensively, I think that showed. Today, we have Lucas Giolito, who, as a Red Sox fan, I'm just losing any sort of trust in, which means he's probably going to start pitching well because I just got off the bandwagon, right? He's going up against Ryan Pepio, who has looked really, really good. I will say Pepio's numbers against the Red Sox, there's some good numbers there. There's some bad, like for average, for example, doesn't look all that great, but in terms of strikeout and preventing any of these big hits and power numbers, he does look pretty good. Giolito, though, has fantastic numbers against this Rays team. And when I say the Rays team, I mean the current roster. 53 plate appearances against, a 32% K rate, 5% walk rate, average against of 160, expected batting average against 145, and an xWOBA of 205. So really, really good. If you like the Red Sox, that's probably what you're looking at there for him to suppress the Rays lineup. So maybe that's something that you peek at, maybe like a first 5 under or a team total under. For me, Pepio's been too good, and I just can't see the consistency out of Giolito. So for the price that we're getting right now, it's a pick 'em essentially. I'm probably going to lean towards Tampa Bay. I don't mind the idea of, like I said, a potential look at an under. We went to extras. We scored a bunch of runs. Now all of a sudden you get right here and it's like, okay, well, let's settle in, right? And you have a pitcher that has good numbers against one team, Ryan Pepio, who's now been pitching well against any team that he's facing. Maybe we come back down to earth with this score. So I'm going to go under 9.5. It is kind of scary to pull the trigger on an under in a Red Sox game, but I think that might be what we're looking at here. Milwaukee taking on the Braves. Shout out to all the comments yesterday being like, wow, you called the under in the first 5 and the full game over. It really wasn't that great. I mean, it was a great call, I guess. It's not like we took it ourselves. We took the first 5 under. But realistically, all I was saying was I like the starting pitching and then the bullpens could give us trouble. So that was kind of like the 2 + 2 = 4, but it made me look like a genius to some degree. But I can't take all that credit. In terms of this game, we have Quinn Priester getting the start here for Milwaukee, going up against Grant Holmes. Both of these guys have some really good numbers throughout the year, and both these guys definitely have some iffy spots. I would say that Quinn Priester has been pretty damn good over his last few starts. He hasn't started since, I want to say, late May, right? Let's see when his last start was. Yeah, he hasn't started since May 24th, but he's been pitching out of the bullpen, if I'm not mistaken, right? And the only reason, I guess now that I'm looking at the numbers too, the only reason he hasn't started is because they've gone opener and then to him. So he's technically still been throwing the correct amount of innings that we would like, right? I like the idea of a first 5 under yet again in this spot. I do not love it as much as yesterday, I will admit that, but I still do think that, Holmes can go out there and pitch fairly well. He's going to throw a lot of fastballs and sliders, decent pitch mix against his Milwaukee team, who struggles against righties, and then we're going to see sinker, slider out of Quinn Priester, and both these guys should keep the ball on the ground, which is a very good thing given the fact that put these things in the air and all of a sudden some runs come in, right? So I like the idea of a first 5 under. I'll probably end up making that a final play if we can get a good line. In fact, let's see what we can get for the odds right now, because I'm okay to at least maybe just go like half unit or something on that. Under 5 -145 or under 4.5 +100. I think we might take both of those, quarter unit on each, which amounts to a half unit, getting that plus money, and then also having the safety net of that 5. I don't mind the idea of that. Grant Holmes so far this year, only 42% of his starts have gone under, but on the road, yeah, all of his starts have gone over. Okay, that's a little worrisome. In terms of Quinn Priester, though, both of his home starts have gone under. I think that this Brewers lineup is starting to cool off, at least, against good pitching. 3 of their last 4 games, 0 or 1 run scored. They've gone 0-4, 0-1. So hopefully this is a spot in which Holmes can kind of get things back in gear. I think I'm going to look at that first 5 under. I would expect, if you guys are checking out the final plays down in the pinned comment, I would expect a quarter unit or whatever the unit size that we put on. For simple purpose, let's say quarter unit on the first 5 under 4.5 for plus money, and then first 5 under 5 quarter unit there for, a little bit more juice. I like that. I just hope we're not getting a little too greedy taking the same play that we cashed yesterday, right? In terms of a side here, I do think Priester is looking like the better pitcher, but what I'll say is that this Atlanta team, I believe, is in a better offensive spot. And what I mean by that is this Brewers team has been, again, kind of back into their rut, and in the last 30 days against right-handed bats. Now, they went on a little bit of streak, right? They're still ranked 29th in average, 27th in WRC+, 30th in slugging, 26th in ISO, 27th in OPS. It's not like the Braves are blowing these numbers away, but the Braves are more in like the 18-19 range. So if push comes to shove, if we get to the bullpens, I do like the idea of the Braves here. So yeah, for a fair price, what I would consider, the Braves are probably the side that I'd look at on the money line. But ultimately, I think that first 5 under, I'm kind of trusting both pitchers. Both these guys could be in, or should be in, good spots. If they go and blow it, then shame on them, and shame on us for taking it. All right, we got a tough one here. Minnesota taking on Texas. Now, Texas has the plus money behind them, which is always a good sign, because at the end of the day, you can be like, well, I like the value for the plus money, right? Which may be as far as we get in this one. You have Woods Richardson going up against Tyler Mahle. Woods Richardson, we'll see what we get from him, right? Hasn't started in a while. Tyler Mahle, I do believe, is very good, but he's going to throw a lot of fastballs. This is a Twins team that, even though their offense has been a little sporadic, it looks pretty good right now, and they've been crushing fastballs. So if you like the Twins at home, I get it. That makes sense. They also have the bullpen advantage, but I just don't know if I like the idea of -130 for the Twins. If this thing was sitting right around, like, I guess -1, even 15, right? 15 cents of a difference there, we might be looking at the Twins. So like I said, it's a tough one. I don't mean to blow smoke up your you-know-what and be like, oh, I love the Texas Rangers. No, I like Mahle, and I like the idea of them getting plus money. And throw in the fact that maybe, just maybe, their offense is looking a little bit better. They'll still have those zeros that they're mixing in there, right, where they just look like a dead team. But against Washington, at least in those last 2 games, 5 runs and 4 runs scored. So I like the idea of Texas, but it probably doesn't go much further than like. I like them. In terms of what we have from a total, Who's to say that the Twins can't get to Molly's fastball and then definitely the bullpen? And then what if Woods Richardson just kind of stinks it up coming out there, right? And Texas keeps going. So I like the idea of an over 8.5 as well. But I do want to be fully transparent and let you guys know, even though I said it, I don't think either of those plays become final plays there. I just don't have the confidence level in them. Now let's take a peek at some player props here, because one for plus money I kind of like the idea of, and it's just because he's in an absolute slump, right? Especially after coming back. I don't mind the idea of Corey Seager under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, simply because you're getting plus 115 for it. If you were getting like plus 100 even, I'd probably stick away from it, right? So, and then the next one would be Evan Carter under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And then on the other side of things, Cody Clemens. So 3 player props with their under. Don't necessarily mind it, just based on this, the lefty-righty splits and the pitch mix. But this game kind of has me in a chokehold. I'm very confused about it. All right, Royals taking on the Yankees. I'm pretty excited for this one because we have Noah Cameron on the mound, who's been really good, right? Like, really good. Last 5 starts, 0.8 ERA. Maybe it's 0.6 ERA. Going up against Max Fried, who we know is very good. Max Fried, last time he saw this Royals team, April 15th, 6 2/3, 2 earned, 7 Ks. Noah Cameron, obviously, has never seen the Yankees. This is going to be a really good test to how good this kid is, because not to say he's had an easy competition level, but Tampa Bay, St. Louis, Minnesota, Cincinnati, St. Louis, like, he hasn't faced a team like the Yankees in a damn while, right? So, or at all. So I'm interested to see what he does. I kind of want to give him a little bit of credit and back him. Like, he is good. So I'm going to say first 5 under. I'll sound the psycho alert alarm because I know how crazy it can be to take anything with an under with the Yankees involved. So maybe we don't have the cojones to actually drop it on the table and roll with that. But I think this kid could be pretty good against lefty bats like Bellinger, Rice, Grissom, who's batting well now too. He should be pretty good. The righties scare me, and that is enough to scare one guy in the lineup being a righty. Aaron Judge could scare you. You know what I mean? But Paul Goldschmidt being up there as well. So could be some concerns there. I think this is probably a Yankees run line type spot. Late in the game, they should have an advantage just given the fact that they can beat you down with that offense. So I'll lean Yankees run line, maybe first 5 run line, but I do think Cameron could hold his own. So I'm going to go first 5 under, as crazy as that may be. Now let's see if we have the stones to toss some actual, money on that, because I just don't think that we can get there, because the fact that you get like, a 4.5, all it takes is, couple Yankees nice plays, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're in trouble. Noah Cameron starts to kind of, fade off. We have really nice weather in KC. It's like there's a lot of reasons or a lot of ways an over can happen, which could be a lot of reasons as to why we stay off of it. So hate to give you 2 games in a row where I'm kind of like, I don't know, but again, don't want to fake confidence for content. Next up, St. Louis taking on Toronto. We got 2 comments from 2 different people yesterday being like, you always take against the Cardinals. And I don't even, that's how I know that I'm not biased towards them, because I don't even realize that's the case. We've taken the Cardinals for wins and losses plenty of times being on their side. But today, yet again, I do think this is a Blue Jays spot. You have Chris Bassett on the mound going up against Miles Mikolas. I'm not trying to sit here and say that Chris Bassett is fantastic or anything like that. But he's been okay, but more so okay when at home, right? So he is on the road. We can acknowledge that. But it's not like Mikolas is doing anything spectacular. Like, the fact that Mikolas is having a halfway decent season based on some of his numbers is absolutely crazy. So I do think that this is a spot where Bassett can kind of suppress the St. Louis offense again. He's going to throw a ton of sinkers. This is a team that's bottom 10 in the league, bottom 5 in the league against the sinker. He'll go to the fastball. He'll go to the cutter, then curve. Both pitches that St. Louis struggles against. They are a little bit better against righties. I give them that. But if we see the fastball slider combo from Mikolas, I think that Toronto's going to be able to hit it. Now, we did go to extras yesterday. In terms of bullpens being used, Toronto did use Hoffman, Yariel Rodriguez, and Little, which are obviously key arms sort of late in the games for them. So I think that that's a fair call for concern, but Helsley and Matten went for St. Louis. So this is probably a game in which, even though I think Bassett keeps St. Louis lineup suppressed, I could see a lot of runs coming in late. So contrary to what we did yesterday, we had the under. I'm going to lean towards the over and the Blue Jays here in this spot. I'd only like the Blue Jays if you can stick that plus number beside them, and I think right now it's a pick 'em. So we'll see where, money comes in and whatnot throughout the day. But give me Toronto in the over. If the odds stay where they are right now, I'd probably end up leaning slightly towards the over. Houston taking on the White Sox. I really do wish that we that we kind of got this early, because this totals down to 7.5. I like the idea of a first 5 under, because I think that Shane Smith is actually a decent pitcher. He's on the White Sox, which the worst thing about him is that he plays for the White Sox. Lance McCullers Jr. is on the mound. I don't necessarily love him, but he's going up against the White Sox offense, so I thought we had a nice path there to a first 5 under. Right now, in fact, if we get updated odds, just so we have a frame of reference here, first 5 under in this one, right? So 5 under, what we were looking at was 4.5, is minus 144 right now. I liked it. I think it was minus 121 when we saw it earlier. Shane Smith on the road so far this year has been pretty good. 4-2 to the under, that number when on the road. And then Lance McCullers has kind of struggled. But again, he's going up against the White Sox offense, so I almost don't care about him. But now I don't think we're getting the same amount of value. You do have a White Sox team that hits the fastball really well. That's going to be Smith's number 1 pitch. On the other side of things, you have Lance McCullers, who's going to throw a lot of sliders. That's a pitch that the White Sox hit. So I do think we've lost where we wanted to go. I'd still lean in that direction, and the the total dropping down to 7.5 kind of proves what we were thinking. We just couldn't get it early enough. In terms of a money line side or a side play here, I think the Astros will score when they need to, so maybe you take a peek at them in the first 5 run line, something like that. Again, I think that Shane Smith actually is comparable to Lance McCullers, if not a better pitcher, but the offenses behind each of these guys are very, very different. Even though the White Sox, I will admit, have been hitting well, it would be just typical of the White Sox to really go on this nice hitting streak for the 8 games in a row, or whatever it was, 7 games in a row at home. Now they go to Houston, poof, it's gone, right? So if they score today, I think we can say, okay, they're starting to score, but I can't just throw a parade for them scoring, all of those runs at home and then expect them. You can't expect the White Sox to continue scoring right now. So had we seen them on the road scoring and whatnot, I think there could be a nice little look at, White Sox plus whatever the heck they are, because they got a big price tag on plus 165. But I don't think that that's worth taking a peek at right now until we can see that the White Sox bats are scoring. So first 5 under and first 5 run line probably for Houston. The only 2 things I'm taking a peek at right now. All right, we can go through this one pretty quickly, which kind of happens with all of our Colorado games. Carson Palmquist going up against Kyle Harrison. Don't mind the idea of an over here, but I do kind of worry about the fact that, San Fran struggles to score outside of San Fran. And Kyle Harrison, or I should say the Colorado Rockies, struggled to score in general. Kyle Harrison, I think, could pitch pretty well as a lefty here in this spot. Same thing with Carson Palmquist. So I like the idea of an over because I don't like either one of these pitchers, even though Harrison has been okay, like I said, recently. But the bats, you got to hit the ball for the altitude and whatnot to matter. So I'll lean over, but that's just about it. San Fran, maybe some sort of a money line piece. Late in the game, they should have a clear bullpen advantage, and they do have a starting pitching advantage as well. And I will mention one thing, too, is that the fastball is what, Harrison's going to throw. And the fastball can fight that altitude fairly decently, better than any other pitch in Colorado there. So the fact that he's going to exclusively throw a spinny fastball, that could be a good look, too, to kind of keep the Colorado bats out of it. So I do think San Fran has that advantage. Angels taking on the Athletics. I loved our look at Yusei Kikuchi yesterday, under 2.5 earned runs. That one was sweat-free. He ends up pitching deep into the game, which got a little dicey, right? I'm like, take the guy out. Still ended up, I think, with 0 earned runs. Today we have Soriano going up against Mitch Spence. What I like about Mitch Spence, and if there's anything to like about him, he does keep the ball on the ground, which is a good thing. And Soriano, you struggle to find anyone that does that better than him, right? So I know it's kind of a weird spot. I know these, these Angels have been batting, but I do think that I start to look at a first 5 under. You can get a pretty good number here. In fact, let me pull up the, let me get the updated line here. You can get a pretty good number for under 4.5. Right now it is plus 100, minus 125 for the 5. 5.5 is minus 155. So if you wanted to pay the juice, you could even actually minus 148. I think that could be worth looking at. Mitch Spence on the season on the road. He's been, kind of. Actually, I don't think he has any road starts, but on the season for him, just a couple of these, and he's gone over, which is tough. But Soriano is really what I'm keying in on here. 2 of his last 3 starts, he stayed under this one, so I kind of like the idea of that. But again, these are 2 pitchers that, even though they keep it on the ground, I can't go out there being like, oh my god, they keep it on the ground as if I have some fetish or something. They're still not the best of pitchers, and at least one of these offenses is kind of rocking right now. So I do like the idea of a first 5 under. But we'll see if we really can get there. Because, again, you do have Soriano, who has been known to blow up, and then Mitch Spence definitely has that capability as well, right? Especially pitching non-starting innings. He really hasn't looked all that fantastic, but he has been better on the road, like I was mentioning. If I had to pick a side here, I think that, for the price, it's only the Athletics for me. I don't believe this Angels team is as good as they're playing. And the A's, as much as I told you guys in the early videos, I should say, of this year, that everyone's on the Athletics over and their win total and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't think this team's that good. You don't get Severino and become that good. I don't think they're as bad as they're playing right now. So you have one team that's just going in the weird wrong direction. At some point, we'll probably turn it around to some degree. And then another team that is just flying high right now. At some point, they're going to run out of gas. So I like the Athletics, but again, is there anything in this game? It's probably a little bit too volatile for me to actually put my hard-earned bread on. And that might be the biggest piece of advice I can give on this one. It's a volatile game. Dodgers taking on the Padres. Sweat-free cash for us yesterday with the over. Now we have Dylan Cease in the mound going up against, I believe it's Jose Urena. But I've also seen Bobby Miller's name out there. So and I've seen as an opener Matt Sauer. So we got to see who's starting for this Dodgers squad. But clear pitching advantage, regardless if it's any of those names, for San Diego. Now, yesterday's game was obviously pretty entertaining, and we cashed our over rather quickly, but a lot of runs in that one. I do believe that this one could kind of be a little bit more, I guess, low scoring, but not enough for me to lean towards the under. I don't think it's going to be 8-7 again, but for them to get to 9 runs, all it takes is the Dodgers to put up 6, and, your Padres probably could be good for 3 at home against their rival, against any of those starters that we did mention, right? So I think I'm going to lean over in this one. And then for the price, I think it's going to be Dodgers almost regardless of who's pitching. I think that's the reason we're getting the good price tag. Dodgers right now, in fact, what are the updated odds on the Dodgers? Because it was minus 104 when I saw it earlier. That was like an hour ago. Minus 108. So it's actually moving slightly in that direction. If we can get plus money on the Dodgers on one of those exchanges like ProfitX or Novig or something like that, I think that could be worth considering. Is it really like based on an absolute advantage of X, Y, and Z? No, it's based on the fact that you have what I would consider still the better offense for plus money, and you're only getting those odds because of the pitching advantage on the other side of things. But it's not like Cease has been absolutely shut down. Cease is one of my guys. I do like him, but if he goes out there and gives you 5 innings of 3 earned, I think we could be well on our way to a Dodgers win. So yeah, I like the over in the Dodgers. All right, Arizona taking on Seattle. I'm a little shocked by what we're getting from odds here. Logan Evan against Brandon Pfaadt, and Arizona obviously pulling it out for us yesterday. We had them first 5 and money line. They ended up winning that game 8-4, but had to go to extras to do it, right? There was a 4-run top of the 9th for Seattle. Before that, they were up, I believe it was 4-0, the Diamondbacks. So yeah, it's pretty sweaty there. I will say Arizona finally gets back on the win train. Their offense looks good. They're at home. Going up against Logan Evans, again, who I don't necessarily want to sit here and say has been all that fantastic. If it is Logan Evans, even this one, actually, I should say, I've seen Brian Wu, his name out there. So either one of those guys, I still do think that you have some value on the Diamondbacks offense. Brian Wu's been better, but Brandon Pfaadt, I would like to think, turns it around from here. He's gone up against Washington, who was on fire. Atlanta, same thing. But prior to that, he looked okay. And this Seattle team isn't necessarily hitting right now, so maybe it could be a good spot for him to get it right. For the odds at minus 105, I like the idea of the Diamondbacks, but I might pivot towards their team total over, if anything, just because we don't want to have to blindly back Brandon Pfaadt, you know what I mean? So give me the Diamondbacks and their team total over, but this is another one we want to make sure who's pitching for Seattle. I've seen Evans, I've seen Brian Wu, much like the Dodgers where we've seen like 4 different names. So keep an eye on the starting pitchers. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Large slate. You could probably tell by some of my breakdowns, a lot of confusing sort of question mark-esque pieces out there. So we'll see what we end up rolling with. Keep an eye on those final plays. But after a 9-1 night, we're probably not going to go crazy, even though we do have more games. We liked what we saw yesterday, obviously, even though I'm not sure if we did coming into the night. But obviously by the end of it, I was like, I'm going to look like a genius. We'll see if we can do that tonight. So keep an eye on those final plays. Really do appreciate it, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.